Sex and the City. Are you friends with any of them?
They all have children, and I'm 10 years older. And since specifically the series ended, I've been spending most of my time outside of New York. So I don't see them. The common ground that we had was the series, and the series is over.
When was the last time you spoke to any of the other three?
It must have been at some event. I don't even remember.
Years ago?
Gotta be. And that's another thing that's really disappointing, is that nobody ever picks up the phone and tries to contact you and you say, how you doing? You know, that would have been the way to handle it. And usually what happens in a healthy relationship is that someone offered, or a transaction for a job in my business, is that someone says, are you available? And you say, yes, and here's the job. And they say, well, yes, but thank you very much. I'm sort of over here right now, but thank you very much. And that person turns to you and they say, that's great, good luck to you, I wish you the best. That's not what happened here. This is, it feels like a toxic relationship.
Well, they're all basically blaming you for ruining everybody's fun. There can't be any more Sex and the City because you have killed Samantha.
I haven't killed Samantha. I have released Samantha. I just wish that Sarah had been nicer.
I mean, you can hear the murmuring because we've all heard rumours that you didn't get on, and now we've heard it from the horse's mouth, or one of the horses, for want of a better phrase. And people are quite saddened, I think, probably, that actually...
Well, this is the irony of it, you know, that this is where we are in the reality of it, you know, and that was the fantasy of it, but this is the reality of it. I'm being incredibly honest about them.
Do you think you'll ever talk to her again? You're all faking it. Oh, I'm only asking it. No, but seriously,
I don't think that we're faking it. I think there is genuine affection, and there has been over the years.
But not anymore.
Well, this is extenuating circumstances. And in the past, you know, I felt, wow, I don't, especially with the fans, I don't want to, in any shape or form, ruin an ideal of it. Because it does stand for empowerment, and it does stand for women sticking up for each other, but not always.
If Sarah Jessica Parker watches this, what would your message to her be?
I think that's pretty clear. I mean, I wish everybody well. You know, I really do.
Apart from her?
No,
Understood.
Bet you didn't expect that.
I did not expect that. You've been linked to a gentleman called Russell Thomas.
Yes, yes.
He's your boyfriend?
Yes.
We have a picture of this great guy.
Ah, there he is.
Tell me about him.
Russell and I met at the BBC. He was working at the BBC, and we liked each other. He followed me, and I followed him.
On Twitter?
On Twitter. He direct messaged me because...
you mean that's how it works? A very modern romance.
It's very, very modern. It's just been very easy.
But it's love.
Yeah, it's real good. It's real good. He's a great guy.
He's British, right?
Absolutely.
Do you think really British men, in the end, are the best, Kim?
That is such a loaded question right now.
Do you think you'll get married again?
I think that you could not get married and be an incurable romantic. I don't see a real need for it.
Having gone over your entire life, I mean, do you feel like you're as content now as you've ever been?
Yes. I mean, I have good days and bad like anybody else, but I feel good.
Did you feel different?
No, I didn't. I mean, you know, I kind of liked music and collecting jewellery and hanging out with girls. Wasn't so much interested in football and climbing trees or scrumping. So I was made to feel a bit like an outsider, but really around the time of finding Bowie was when I sort of went, ah. Because up until seeing Bowie, I didn't really know what was wrong with me. I was always made to feel like I wasn't the same as other kids, but I didn't really know why.
Did you know always that you were gay? Did you believe you were?
I knew that I was different when I was, like, 6 years old, but it wasn't until I got to about 10 or 11 that I realised, you know, that I was a gay man. And really, all I ever heard in the 70s was insults about gay people.
Did you go through a period of slight doubt? Did you think, actually, maybe I'm straight? Or did you always think, no?
No. I never thought I was straight.
You never had a moment of reflection?
No.
When did you come out to your parents?
I was about 15, and I kind of told her that I'd been, you know, seeing this guy and things weren't going well, and kind of broke down a bit, cried to her.
Did she take it well?
I think that she was disappointed that I didn't tell her before. It was one of those weird things.
Do you think she knew? I mean, mothers always know, don't they?
Kind of, yeah, but we were so close all growing up, you know, that I think my mum was like, why didn't you tell me? And I was like, well, it's not really something you can just say over Sunday dinner. Pass the salt, by the way, I'm gay.
And what about your father?
My dad was surprisingly cool about it. My dad sort of said, you know, you're still my son. I remember him kind of getting my shoulders and saying, these are all yours, but I actually had socks rolled up in my T-shirt.
Turn to David Bowie again. Let's have a look at you as a teen. You trying to emulate your hero. Pretty similar, actually.
Yeah, well, I was obsessed.
And you used to camp outside his house. Ever meet him in later years?
Yeah, we met a few times. We were in Mr. Chow's in New York. I was with him, Iman, and Hedy Slimane from Yves Saint Laurent. And this guy came up and said, hey, it's my girlfriend's birthday. Will you guys come and sing happy birthday? And I was going to get up, because, you know, that's what I do. And Bowie was like, no, I don't think that would be appropriate. And I kind of slid back into my seat, thinking, oh, my God, how embarrassing. It was quite funny, and I was like, oops, OK.
What was he like? For those who didn't know the real Bowie.
Lovely. We talked about EastEnders, British tea.
What was Bowie's view of EastEnders?
You know, he missed it. He liked catching it when he was back in London. And we talked about Russian art films, of which I knew very little, so I was winging it a bit during that bit.
Another music legend that you knew very well was George Michael, of course.
He was my rival. He was called George. You know, he made soul music, so everything he did, you know, it was like we were kind of battling all the time, you know. The only time that we really got together was when friends tricked us, and there was this one particular night where the two girls in Bananarama invited me to a dinner at a Japanese restaurant, and he was there as well, and we had such a brilliant time. We had so much in common. But, you know, I suppose our egos wouldn't allow us to really be friends.
The infamous sex tape. When it was made, did you know it had been made?
Well, we filmed everything. Tommy and I would film everything, and we were naked all the time, so it was never a honeymoon tape. It was just him and I being in love and doing crazy things and filming it silly. It was very... I've never seen it. I don't want to see it.
Apparently, $77 million, they reckon, was the revenue from this tape. Have you ever seen any of that money?
Never. Not a dime. Never.
So your private home sex tape with Tommy has now been viewed by millions of random strangers.
Yeah.
And made other random strangers who stole it incredibly rich.
Yes, I know. I hear that, but we really just wanted to make sure our family was okay. The damage was done. It's out. And it was stressful for both of us, and we just wanted to move on with our lives. What is it like?
I mean, even for you, where you'd done lots of, you know, Playboy shoots by then and so on, to have a tape that's that personal, of you engaging in sex with your husband, viewed by the world because someone stole it.
Yeah, it was really devastating. I'm sure this is the biggest reason, along with, you know, I think it was just accumulated, all this stress. We had a lot of stress. This really did not help our marriage.
If you knew what the downside of fame was going to be like, would you set out again on becoming famous? Would you put yourself into the public arena?
I don't think I set out on becoming famous. I think that was... It just kind of happened naturally. But definitely, we just learned as we went. I mean, I was married to Tommy, and we just had paparazzi and people hanging from trees and photographing us in our house. We were actually part of the reason why they changed that law. You cannot shoot into people's homes. Because, you know, Tommy would come out with a sawed-off shotgun and naked. And point at people, and then I remember at that time, I think it was Hard Copy. I remember Hard Copy said, for Pamela and Tommy's wedding present, we're not going to press charges. Because it was, yeah, I remember just lying in bed and Tommy bounding across, you know, with the gun and going out on the balcony. I thought, oh no, here we go.
He's going to shoot paparazzi.
He's going to shoot the paparazzi. It's very romantic.
You two are completely
We're
barking,
insane.
aren't you?
I know. It was so much fun. We used to go find boulders and wait in the bushes, and then when the paparazzi came, they'd get out of their car and try and come around our house, we would go smash their cars, boulders through their windows, and they'd come back with boulders through their front windows.
Just to start there, you're one of the most influential figures in British music. What is interesting about you, I think for those who don't know you, is such an eclectic range of musical tastes that you have. And we made a little list here. Mozart, Status Quo, the Bee Gees, Kool and the Gang. Why Mozart?
Requiem. Absolutely. Just
but why?
love
What does it do to you?
Breaks me up inside. It just hits in all the right emotional places. It's the saddest death dirge. It's dedicated to the death of his father. Just beautiful, insanely excellent, and so superb because it's not finished, which is the answer to death. What is death? It doesn't have a finished conclusion. Perfect for me.
You go from Mozart to Status Quo. Quite a leap musically.
I love Status
Why
Quo.
do you love Quo?
Oh, my God, what they do with 3 notes. Just...
You never liked the Beatles very much.
Well, Mum and Dad played them way too much, you know? And so the prejudice was set in there. I just, you know, one more time of that awfulness.
You're driving through London and Paul McCartney is also there and wants to meet you. What happens?
Oh, that was terrible. I was with my wife, Nora, and we were going to visit my brother in Tottenham. And we had to go through past Harrods, and 2 people come running across the street, and it's Paul and Linda McCartney, and they're banging on the cab window. I put the lock down and... I could not cope with it. It was too much. This is, you know, a famous person.
Yeah, this is like the most famous person
I couldn't
on the
handle it.
planet.
Listen, my shyness took over.
But you just sped off in your cab, leaving the world's #1
I know.
music superstar
Yeah, with the
standing there.
With the cab driver going, bleed now, I've seen it all now. And Nora going, oh, why don't you let them in? No. You know when things take you sometimes by surprise? Bang, it's Paul and Linda. It's I'm
told you get stage fright sometimes so badly you throw up.
Always, yeah, terrible.
Literally, you throw up.
Yeah, no, I can't eat before a gig. Can't. Panic, nerves, fear. Don't want to let people down. Once I get on stage, for instance, there's no shyness at all. Right? Mr. Rotten is full on. But that's like I was kind of made to be that, but I was also made to be this shy person also. One works well with the other.
Hard to imagine, actually, many things worse than in the wake of the Jimmy Savile scandal, Operation Nutri, everyone was about sex from underage people. And here you are, suddenly you are called at an airport and you're told, we need to talk to you as part of Operation Nutri. What was that moment like for you?
The policeman came, took me to Heathrow police station, where I was photographed, took me shoes, tie, swab, fingerprints, put in a cell. Slam.
And you're sitting in that cell, you've been one of the biggest stars of British television, arrested under Operation Nutri into, as the public think, paedophiles.
Yeah, and my mind was racing, and I was thinking, what am I going to be accused of? And I went back to all the things I've done over the years and tried to remember all the women. And I got into such a state, I started pacing. And I remembered my best friend called Goose from the Special Forces. And I thought, what would he do now? And he would say, you cannot do anything, so do nothing. And I went to sleep. Forced myself to go to sleep. God knows how I slept. The lawyer came. We went into a little room. He gave me a couple of bits of paper saying what these accusations were. So when we went and spoke to the police, quite confident, but I was terrified. And the reason I was terrified, and I noticed very quickly that the person that complained were now not called complainants, they were called victims.
Actually, you never properly clear yourself. Once you're out there...
It didn't leave me undamaged.
Right.
I found it pretty traumatic. And it has affected me. I cannot at any stage of the proceedings of my life now, be accused of something I haven't done. I hate it, and I'll battle away, even at trivia. Left the milk out. I didn't. I won't now have a conversation with a woman in a room without someone else being there.
I mean, that's quite sad, isn't it?
Not my fault. But I need to protect myself. I've been through the hell. I'm easy to accuse.
Well, you had a very promiscuous life, right? So
Yeah,
there were,
I did.
I mean, how many women do you think you slept with over the years?
I didn't sleep much.
I mean, from a scale of Dalai Lama, 0, to Bill Wyman, 2000, where's Jay Davidson?
Well, just phone Bill Wyman and tell him to get his act together.
Do you think you've had periods of your life where you've been a sex addict, genuinely?
No. No, that's never... No, that's just part of the perks of the job, isn't it? No, I'm not a sex addict, no. Mind you, there's lots of stuff. There's porn everywhere. I mean, how can you not be a sex addict? It's on the television. Someone said, go and look on so-and-so channel 614. It's fantastic. I thought, oh, God, all right. So I sat there, and do you know what I saw? It's disgusting. Like a faded grey picture of a fat old bloke stood there with his dick in his hand. And I realised I hadn't switched the television on.
Some guests I've interviewed have been, you know, players when it comes to the ladies and have had maybe a threesome. Some have even gone as far as a foursome. I've never had anybody who ended up in a cocaine-fuelled 12-some.
Well, actually, it was 9, and then 3 turned up later when we were asleep.
Is this true? I mean,
Yeah.
did you actually have sex with 12 women in one night?
Well, you've... Yeah. 9.
And they weren't there because they loved you. They were there because...
They were paid for. They were
Yeah.
women of horizontal refreshment. And shocking, isn't it?
Given I'm never going to be able to ask anybody else this question, what was it like?
Well, the first 4 or 5 were all right. My mate, whose name, the rest of him will remain nameless, he ordered all these women, and because it was my money he was spending, he ordered 9 girls to turn up, which he thought was a hoot, but they all turned up at once at this really posh little boutique hotel in Kensington. And the phone rang, Mr. Davidson, there's 9 women downstairs for you. My mate, he said, leave it to me. And he picked up and he said, that is the hockey team that Mr. Davidson is meeting for photographs. And they all had nails and sort of fishnets and whips and... There's some hockey team that was.
I mean, Jim, your sons are sitting here listening to this,
I couldn't invite them, they were too young then.
Your wife's sitting here. You have no sense of decorum about boasting about 12-somes?
No, and I hope they have one and all. Yeah. Good luck, boys.
This is quite an unusual situation for you, isn't it? Because it can't be many times when you sit down with another man who is better looking, more charming, more popular. How do you feel?
I feel good.
Quietly confident.
I don't know how to feel, if you know what I'm saying. I wondered whether I should do some mental research. And I didn't know really what to research because I've never really thought about my life. I've just gone... Maybe because I'm an actor, you're always thinking of the future, not really thinking on the past. So this is going to be really interesting.
You are known as the charmer, on and off screen. I mean, do you consider yourself to be a charmer?
Yes. I mean, I try to be, because I think that's the way forward. I think it's best... You know, we live a certain amount of time, which isn't very long if you think about it in the scale of things, and I think a duty... Really, I've always thought my duty is to be as nice to people as I possibly can be, really.
But you've been an actor for over 50 years. It does prompt the question, because you're extremely youthful, obviously. How old are you?
I've lied about my age pretty much all the way through my life, yes.
That's why I'm curious as to whether you can finally fathom the truth to actually tell me the honest answer.
To begin with, I made myself older, which is a bit stupid, I know.
Why?
Well, I was going out with a girlfriend who was slightly older than me, but she thought she was younger. So I actually changed my passport.
I think that's punishable with 2 years in jail.
Is it? That would be interesting.
Just trying to rack up how many crimes we can get to by the end of the show.
Be about 10 years.
And when did you start lying about your age the conventional way, i.e.
Being younger?
Yes.
I don't know. Sort of a few years later, you know, I started going the other way.
How old are you?
I'm 65.
You get a point for honesty early in the interviews. This is a good sign.
Yeah.
You'd still get saucy fan mail. You were sent a drawing by a Coronation Street viewer. Rather explicit drawing of you and a woman together in bed.
Yes. That was very
From a
weird.
Corrie fan.
I know. I used to get quite a lot of Corrie.
Suggesting that you would...
Yeah.
What?
Sort of meet up and, you know, get it together.
And were you, you know, on one level, were you horrified at this sort of forward approach by these women, or on the other hand, thinking, I'm 65, get in there?
I was so delighted. I just thought, you know, that's the best thing that could possibly happen.
Let's turn to something happier. Your voice recently topped a poll as the one that passengers would find most reassuring on a flight. You beat Sean Connery, Hugh Grant, Stephen Fry and Joanna Lumley.
No.
You are the most reassuring voice a plane passenger could ever hear.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. We're cruising at 39,000 feet. Unfortunately, we've lost all engines. Don't panic. I'm with you.
Now, Nigel, you're one of the country's best-loved actors, and your life has also had its fair share of drama.
I went into this place, this psychiatric hospital. It's odd, isn't it? What, you can get yourself into such a corner. But, you know, I only have myself to blame, really.
Describe to me what was going through your mind then.
I couldn't speak anymore. I found difficulty speaking to anybody. Not just chatting, just speaking about anything.
There was, of course, the irony. There you are, the big TV love rat.
Yeah.
The charmer.
Yeah.
And here you are, to the public, looking like you're exactly the same in real life. Yeah. How did you get into this?
I fell head over heels in love with Polly, I think. And I think, what can you do about it? It's sort of a roller coaster.
But you weren't out of love with your wife?
No, but I wasn't. She was the most wonderful, wonderful woman. And I don't know, it's just... I don't know what people do. I'm never going to go through that again. I wanted to have them both, is really what I'm saying. It's a terrible thing to say, isn't it? If I could have...
Well, it's an honest thing to say.
Yeah, Monday to Wednesday.
Did you ever suggest this to...
I don't think it would have gone down very well.
No.
No.
You said you felt suicidal at one stage. Was that true?
Yep. I thought it was...
You just thought the easiest thing to do would be to kill yourself?
There was other... upsetting Caro, upsetting Polly, or not upsetting any of them. Well, of course, that would upset them both, probably, but... or that. So that was in the equation. Very, very dark moment, that, isn't it? I've never really thought about it. Never really talked about it. I've never talked about this to anybody, actually.
You had a little girl with Carol.
Yeah.
She was still very young.
Very young.
At the time.
Yeah.
It must have been heart-wrenching.
Heart-wrenching.
Did you ever doubt that you'd made the right decision?
Actually, no, I didn't. Again, because I don't look back, I just went forward.
Caro died from pneumonia in 2011.
Yes. We were all there, I mean...
Right.
I just couldn't believe it. Just like that. She had this cough, you know, and she was in London, and I said, you go and see my doctor. So she did. And she came back 10 days later, it was slightly worse, and within 10 days. It was just... I can't imagine. Terrible.
Did she ever forgive you, do you think?
She did forgive me.
And told you that?
Yes.
That must have been a great moment for you.
She did, during that period. And I wondered whether she knew she was dying. But she said, don't worry about me. You know, I do forgive you. I do love you.
How did that make you feel?
I felt a bit of a shit, really, because I put her through all that. But we did speak a hell of a lot. I mean, never a week went by that I didn't ring her, all through my life. So she was very important to me. She was a great person.
Let's go back right to the start of your life. You were born Nigel Allen Havers in London in 1951, raised in Suffolk. Your father was Michael, a prominent lawyer. Your mum's Carol, older brother called Philip.
Now, you're from legal royalty. Your family's one of the most eminent legal families in the country.
Well, yes, I know that my grandfather was a High Court judge.
Wasn't he involved in the Ruth Ellis case?
He did.
He was the last person to be hanged in this country.
Yes, he was the judge at that trial.
I mean, amazing sort of piece of history, really.
Yes. And then he wrote to the Home Secretary and said, this woman must not be hanged. My brother has the letter, and the Home Secretary at the time ignored that. And then there was my dad, who was a QC and then became Lord Chancellor, and my brother is a very eminent QC. And then my aunt is Elizabeth Butler Sloss, who was the head of the family division for years, and the most fantastic woman. She's really wonderful. And then there's me.
Now, you're not just plain old Nigel Havers. You have a title.
If you can call it a title. I mean, my father became Lord Chancellor, and because of that, his sons are given the title of the Honourable. And as he handed it to me, he said, "Nothing honourable about you." So I thought it was charming. So, yes...
So you're the Honourable Nigel Havers?
I am, but, I mean, no, not as if I'm going to say, "Hello, the Ivy, can I book a table?" Yes, it's the Honourable Nigel Havers. I don't think I'll be doing that.
When have you used that title to get yourself out of trouble?
Are you going to tell me I've used it?
Yes.
Oh, damn. I was just about to say I never used it in my life.
You used it with the American police once.
Oh, I did. You know... This was a pretty shocking story, really. I was with my agent and friend, Russ Lister, in Los Angeles, and we'd had a few bevies, you know, as one does, and I thought, I'm fine to drive home. Stupid thing to do, of course.
So you were drunk?
I'm being honest, yeah, I was a bit. And a police car obviously came behind me, and I didn't notice that, because you don't see the lights. I was doing 35 miles an hour, and he suddenly pulled me over, and said... "Where are you going? Have you been drinking?" And I said, "Actually, I've had a couple of bevies some time ago, and I'm going home now." And he said, "Oh, you're English?" And I said, "Yes. Do you have any identification?" And I said, "Yes." And I pulled out my passport, and on it has the passport, the Right Honourable Nigel Havers. And he went, "Oh, my God, are you the son of a lord?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Get on your way, sir."
Run me through how you landed this amazing role as an Ewok in the Star Wars film Return of the Jedi, because that, I guess, propelled you into the world that you craved at the time, which was acting and movies and so on.
Yeah, when I was 11, my grandmother, she heard a radio commercial, and it was Lucasfilm that created this announcement saying, "Look, we're looking for short people to be in our new Star Wars movie, Return of the Jedi." My mum phoned the studio, and they said, "We've got everyone we need." We had loads of calls, we're fine. And I think Mum offered them cash.
And when you were on set, you know, with Luke Skywalker and the others, I mean, this must have been an extraordinary feeling for you.
It was an amazing experience, you know, meeting my heroes face to face at the age of 11 was indescribable.
You've hung out with some ridiculously famous people. Harrison Ford, Liam Neeson, Dame Maggie Smith and others. Do you ever get starstruck yourself? I mean, do actors get starstruck around these people?
Yeah, you do. I met Michael Jackson many years ago when I was working on one of the Ewok adventure movies. I was out in Northern California working at George Lucas's special effects facility, and he just popped into our studio to say hi, and for me, it was...
Rewind. We have a picture of this.
There we are.
Michael Jackson pops in to say hi to Warwick Davis. He was the biggest star possibly ever.
It was huge at that time, and this would have been about 1984, 85. The fortunate thing is about this photo, there was one that I found where I still had the Ewok head on. It could have been anyone.
I want to show you another picture. This is from one of your films, Leprechaun. And you starred alongside a young, up-and-coming actress. You're clutching her feet.
Yes.
In what I can describe as a rather leering manner, Warwick Davis.
He's the one that's leering, not Warwick Davis.
When we find out who this is, we could forgive a bit of leering, because...
It's Jennifer Aniston.
It is Jennifer Aniston.
Yeah.
In one of her first films.
Absolutely, yeah. And I like to think that this is the film that gave her big break.
She doesn't talk a lot about Leprechaun, I've noticed.
No, she tends to deny Leprechaun.
Yeah. Were you in Leprechaun? I don't know what you're talking about.
I mean, you should never deny your past. I mean, that was the one that started it all, Leprechaun.
So you landed the lead role in the film Willow, another George Lucas film. George Lucas gave you some great advice just before that came out, I think, about fame.
Yes, he did. He did, and it's something that has stuck with me. He said, when Willow comes out, you know, things are going to change for you, you'll be recognised. But always remember who you are, stay true to that person, and don't believe the hype. Really important advice.
Three bits of advice that most stars, in my experience, forget.
Yes, yeah.
What was Val Kilmer like to work with?
He's fantastic. I mean, without Val, I probably wouldn't have got through that film. He was very physically challenging, very mentally challenging. But Val never let me take it too seriously.
You got a dinner invitation with Val in Covent Garden, and some other famous friends, I think, turned up. Who else was there that night?
Well, Val invited me for dinner. We were filming, and he said, come to dinner tonight. I said, oh, I'm tired after filming. He said, no, come out. We're going to a lovely restaurant in Covent Garden. Somebody's there, the mate of mine's going to come down. So I quickly phoned my mum, said, can you give me a lift to Covent Garden after filming today? And she had one of these Citroen 2CVs, right? Yes. But this one was orange and white. OK. It was a beautiful car, you know, when you weren't in it. And I said, can you give me a lift to the restaurant? So she gave me a lift there, and I said, look, come back in a couple of hours and pick me up, if you wouldn't mind. So I went into the restaurant. It's only Tom Cruise sitting there with Val Kilmer and his wife, Mimi Rogers, at the time. He said, do you want a booster seat? And I said, yeah. And he said, you can have mine. We sat down. And we were eye to eye. We sat down and we had a lovely meal. It was really, really nice. And I'm keeping an eye on the clock, you see, and thinking, oh, no, Mum's going to pull up outside here in a minute. And there's some sort of orange and white embarrassment. And so I kind of made my excuses and left and sort of ran around the corner so I could sort of head her off before she got up the road where the restaurant was. But, yeah, amazing. What an amazing experience. He was a huge star.
I heard you actually got into your mother's car and screamed, go, go, go.
Oh, yeah, it was to get out in case they come out following us, you know.
How did it happen that you came to adopt him? Tell me about the process.
I went to a Prince concert, and there on the stage in the middle of the Prince concert was a 4-year-old kid playing a tambourine. So I went backstage, and I knew the mother, and I knew the father, and of course they were having difficulties with their relationship. And I said, well, while you all are having this difficulty, the kid is sitting out here in limbo. So I tell you what I'll do. Just put the kid in my house until the tour is over with, and then we'll sort this out later. And so it took about maybe a year for me to just, when you say fall in love, well, I fell in love, you know, and she was a little button, and of course, by that time I was dad. And so I said, okay, here's what we're gonna do. You're gonna make everyone wish they adopted you. You're gonna make everyone in your family wish they actually had a chance to get you back. And that's when I said, let's adopt her. And the rest is beautiful.
Did she know that she'd been adopted, or was there a moment when you had to have that conversation?
I guess
4 was a kind of tricky age.
Yeah, well, it was actually 5, maybe 5, 6, but even then it was kind of young. I remember just saying to her, because I don't think she understood adoption. I just think I closed the door and I said, okay, I'm never going to leave you ever again. And I said, do you understand that? And she said, yes, which I'm quite sure she didn't. She didn't know what that meant. And as time went on, she got into a lot of trouble here and there. And she kept saying to me, Dad, what are you gonna do? I said, well, are you doing a television show? Yes, I said, I'm showing up at the television show with you. She said, but it's embarrassing for what I went through. I said, what did I tell you? I'm not leaving you. And then she went through another problem. And I said to her, I'm showing up. She said, Dad, you can't show up. It's court. The cameras are at the court. You can't show up. And I said, what did I tell you? I'm not leaving you. So what I did was, every time she got a chance to get into trouble, she'd go, wait, I can't do that because my dad's going to show up.
Great tactic.
There you go.
Nicole became a huge star herself in The Simple Life with Paris Hilton. She fell off the rails and she got into drugs and the wrong kind of friends. She got arrested for possession of heroin and went into rehab. That's a fairly cataclysmic thing for any father to have to watch his beautiful young daughter go through.
getting her to understand the severity of what was happening. Now I sound like my father now, so. But I went to her and I said, when I was growing up, I lost 3 friends. They were the hippest friends I ever knew in life. One was the hippest guy at the clubs. He drank. He died in a car accident. The second friend died of drugs. And the third one, suicide. I said, it's going to happen in your generation. I don't want you to be in that list of 3. Because after that, you'll be just fine. Well, 3 months later, her friend died of an overdose. And I went back to her, and very quietly, I was very shocked, and I said, I'm sorry to hear that. That's 1. And sure enough, a year later, the second one died. I said, that's 2. And I got a phone call. She said, Dad, I need help. I don't want to be the 3rd one. And I said, I'm with you. I canceled the tour. I said, me and your mother, who didn't get along that well, me and your mother are checking in rehab with you.
When you see how Nicole has now come through everything, you must feel very proud of her.
Yeah. There's not a day that I don't send a text to her and I put down, proud of you.
You're actually granddad.
I'm granddad.
Did you, I mean, be honest, Lionel, the moment you became a grandfather, as a, as a handsome pop icon...
It scared me to death.
That must be a difficult day. I mean, joyous, but difficult.
Grandpa.
Mm. How did that feel when you heard it?
I'm in tight pants, and she's saying grandpa. What are we talking about? And all of a sudden, the word sexy goes out of your life right quick.
Right.
But what I was so thrilled with was when the little pop-pops showed up. I mean, I'll take that position any day of the week. I love it.
You visibly recoiled when you heard Eddie Murphy again say those words in that interview, which were very hurtful, whatever the circumstances.
Well, of course, it's not a nice thing to hear. We were both to blame. I wouldn't have said that publicly, and he apologises to this day about that, because that baby was planned. We planned that baby together, and we were madly in love. And it just went wrong. Dramatically went wrong.
Your friend Charlotte thought that he was the love of your life.
No, he is. He always will be.
If you hadn't fled home and then frozen him out in the way that you did, do you think that it may have been a different story, that you might still be together?
I don't think you can say that, because it is what it is. And I expected him, you know, like I'm the true romantic kind of love story kind of girl. I wanted him to come find me. Yes.
You expected Eddie Murphy...
All I did was call my mum.
You thought Eddie Murphy would leave Los Angeles and come to Leeds?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
As he would say in Beverly Hills Cop, get the fuck out of here! That was never going to happen.
Well, it didn't. It didn't.
Do you think, does any part of you think that if he was to be a single guy again...
Stop it.
I haven't said anything yet.
I know what you're going to say.
What's the answer? I've never known you be speechless about anything in your entire life.
Because I respect his partner, his
that.
fiancé.
You described your sex drive as like a Formula One car. How many people have experienced the Formula One Mel B?
I don't think that many people. You know, I've never had a one-night stand. I'm not that kind of girl. Shut up! No! No, I'm
never had a one-night stand?
No.
There's a few famous men whose names I want to throw at you for either confirmation or vehement denial. Peter Andre, obviously, he was your long-time booty call.
Oh, please don't say it like that. He's a really nice guy. He's got a really nice family. I know I did.
You called him your booty call.
You know why? Because he wrote about me in his book. And the Spice Girls didn't know that he was my booty call. So I had to explain it to them that all this time, in different hotels. I would fly him in and then fly him back out.
Zac Efron? No denial?
But no comment.
Right. You've also had relationships with women.
Yeah,
So how would you define your sexuality?
I don't. I don't think I have to. Because you fall in love with whoever you fall in love with. And I just don't have a preference.